Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and it feels like it's been a bit since I talked about the Shadowlands beta PvP. Most of the times on the Shadowlands beta, I've been exploring classes and taking a look at design changes and kind of where Blizzard is taking some of the different specs and playstyles forward into the next expansion. But in my free time, I do hang out in PvP quite a bit. It's a lot of fun and it's a breath of fresh air. With Battle for Azeroth mired heavily into corruptions, being able to go back to base class abilities for the most part, minus the one or two abilities you get from your Covenant, is quite exciting. I've been really enjoying it on my Outlaw Rogue, and it could be because of the spec that I'm playing, that is finally maybe close to viable, or maybe it could be because of all the different changes and class abilities interacting together in interesting ways. But anyway, I want to give you guys my update on the PvP so far, where I feel like it sits currently. Is it fun? How does it feel to play? And which specs surprised me the most when it comes to Shadowlands PvP? First of all, let's talk about the actual dynamic of the PvP on Shadowlands so far. Last time I talked about it, I described it as Mr. Pandaria-esque, where every class and spec feels like they have massive bursts, but also healers feel like they have burst healing as well, to kind of accommodate for the different burst damage that classes put out. And so far in beta, it feels similarly. It hasn't changed much. I feel like it's mostly because maybe there's something bugged in PvP. I heard rumors before talking about how potentially crits are not scaling down in PvP, so crits are 200% of value, where they should be 150% of value instead. So maybe that could be causing some of the issues, as everybody does seem to have quite a lot of burst. Even if you're a damage over time class like a Shadow Priest, for example, dropping down a bunch of DPs on an enemy creates burst that is sometimes unhealable. So it feels like everybody kind of just melts very quickly. And I do like that pacing. I think Blizzard is going to adjust the pacing, but I think this is far better to be able to score certain kills and end the games faster before the dampening kicks in. Dampening, in my opinion, has been kind of artificial. It's been a way to fix games where they eventually do end, but if, let's say, both players are playing spectacularly, healers are accounting for mana, the DPS are peeling for one another, and if everybody has really good just self-survivability through trinkets and items, then the games can go on for a very long while. So, seeing games not go all the way into dampening has been honestly refreshing. It's super fun, super nice in my opinion, but then again, I'm a rogue. Rogues love being able to line up big CC chains on enemies, power control one enemy or two out of the game, to basically turn the game from a 3v3 into a 3v1. So for other classes it might feel differently, but for me, I've really been enjoying the faster paced games. It's also very refreshing to not have any extra bonus damage trinkets everywhere. For instance, having a PvP trinket where you have to break out of CC and having to put that trinket in a trinket slot, I feel like is in a way going to limit in the future how the damage and numbers go. And if the game is this bursty, imagine having this much damage that everybody already has and bringing in a dress and a bike into this kind of a shake-up playstyle. I mean, I think it will be impossible to balance any of it if Blizzard maintained these kind of things. So seeing people actually using PvP trinkets has been refreshing. There's a lot less variables for you to account for and a lot less cheesy ways that enemies die just because a trinket hits you for more than half your health. So that's been really refreshing, but I don't know if that's how the game is going to stay because, well, the PvP trinkets are looking decent, but them raid trinkets though are looking quite extra saucy, extra interesting, extra juicy in fact. So hopefully Blizzard keeps those in reign once Shadowlands PvP season actually begins. Another thing that I found very surprising in PvP has been the variety of different specs that are now feeling a lot scarier. Now, playing PvP, you haven't seen every single spec in the game yet, so I can't account for every single playstyle out there. But I can tell you the playstyles that I've seen a lot of and what surprised me about them. First one is going to be Balanced Druids. I'm not saying the Balanced Druids are bad in BFA. I'm just saying that they look a lot scarier and a lot more intimidating in this new expansion. I feel like boomies have a lot more pressure, the dot damage seems to be a lot higher, and they're not really all about the CC gameplay of rooting the enemy and silencing the healer, trying to kind of line up some cheesy burst on a lineup with cross CC. Instead, boomies are kind of up in front, in your face, and are just kind of approaching you all the time, being able to pop into bear form with a little bit more survivability, and even getting the ability to change affinities to suit your gameplay, whether it's Ursul's Vortex, maybe even the incapacitating roar from the Guardian affinity. There's quite a lot of abilities for you to play with when it comes to balanced druids to be more aggressive. Then there's Demonology Warlocks, and while you don't see a lot of them, I'm really excited to try out Demonology because the pets seem to do a lot more damage. It seems that there's going to be more quality pets for the spec rather than quantity. Instead of going for a bunch of imps to make a big tyrant happen, just summoning really high quality pets with a lot of health pool to sacrifice for your tyrant, or at least a portion of the health for, makes it a little bit better of gameplay, since imps are more cannon fodder than anything anyway. Shadow Priests are really scary, and they are going to be BFA right now. They have really good CC with a Fear, Silence, and a Stun, but I never felt that Shadow Priests were really all that scary with burst damage. I mean, you could really combine certain abilities together in order to create Mad Burst if you wanted to, but it never really felt like their calling card, at least in BFA. They were kind of okay, but never really scared off. I feel like their self-healing is a lot better now, especially with DP, but also even just casting heals on allies is a lot more effective, similar to how effective it is for an Elemental Shaman to provide some off-healing. And so far, it has been really cool to see Shadow Priest go from like this spec that nobody really was afraid of sitting on, now to somebody who's really scary, and you should definitely watch out for them. Feral Druids, I felt like didn't really have the craziest damage that was overwhelming and overpowering, but a good Feral Druid with Cyclones and amazing healing, together combined with even the legendary for the Heart of the Wild, was actually insanely difficult to play against in a 2v2 environment. So I was really blown away by how a good Feral could just control and maintain their team. It couldn't really tell if I was playing against a Restoration Druid in Feral Affinity or a Feral Druid with Resto Affinity. Either way though, it was quite a show. Then there's also of course Destro Warlocks, and we all know how bursty and broken they may feel. But Destro Warlocks have a playstyle on the beta right now where they just kind of instant cast things, which makes me think that this is not going to be the last time we will see Destro Warlocks in PvP on this expansion or the next. If you thought a Warlock with a billion Infernals and fastest Chaos Bolts was bad enough, how about a Warlock where you can't even interrupt his healing to prevent him from casting, displaying the instant cast playstyle? I think this is going to be something interesting to see how we go forward, and if we'll see more Warlocks happen on the same bandwagon. For final one, you can call me biased. I felt like Outlaw Rogue surprised the hell out of me. Sub Rogue, Assassination Rogue, they all feel very same, but Outlaw Rogue felt quite different. It wasn't the same Outlaw that I remember with between the eyes as a ranged stun. Instead, you are actually kind of play like Assassination and Sub in terms of the kidney shots, the wound poison, you have a shiv, you have gouge, so you do have certain unique things about you, but you actually play very similar to the other specs, so you play it less unique. However, my rotation was everything but boring. It was slice and dices and roll the bones, blade flurries that actually have some cleave capability, landing those gouges, and even going for shivs to slow down enemies before they get to my healer, trying to peel from my allies. It was a lot of things happening all at once, and in some cases it was actually a little bit overwhelming. I think this has been a bit since I've actually had to play my spec and was a bit overwhelmed with just the raw rotation of my abilities. Maybe I'm the only one, but I think you guys should definitely give Outlaw a go once the expansion comes out, especially maybe even for pre-patch in PvP. It'll play very similar to that of Assassination, but I found myself kind of, at least at max level 60, a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of different abilities you have now, and it was quite enjoyable compared to the way Outlaw plays, where you just kind of roll for the lucky buff, try to go for the big DPS burst one-shot lineup, and then hope that corruptions do the rest for you. Anyway, that's gonna be my video on what I noticed in the recent time I've been playing a little bit of the beta. Definitely a lot of fun, and the more I have fun on the beta, the more I wish BFA would be over and we finally got an announcement date for the very, very exciting pre-patch. I think even with essences and traits, getting a little bit of a taste of where Shadowlands is at in terms of its class design, and while not all classes and specs are completely overhauled, the ones that are really do feel quite a lot of fun, and definitely a breath of fresh air. That's actually exactly what I would want to describe the Shadowlands PvP so far. I personally feel it's been a breath of fresh air. There's a lot of cool new things there, but there's also a lot of interesting design that I do agree with. Just hopefully they fix the whole trinket thing for PvP, and we only use PvP trinkets, not PvE trinkets. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see all of you in another video.